So the reason
But I'm going to move my camera a little bit.
Please. Don't you like the background?
No, my television was there and it looks a bit messy. That's better.
The foreground does not look messy to me, so that's the most important. I'm calling to talk about your career path, and the first question I want to ask you is how come that you ended up being a teacher? Is it your a childhood dream that came true?
No, not really. When I was a kid, I wanted to be anything but a teacher because my mum was a teacher.
Oh,
and my auntie and several of my cousins, it's kind of the family business. So I wanted to be a scientist. I didn't really know what a scientist did. I thought they blew things up and mixed chemicals together and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't work out that way. And I did study environmental management, which is a science subject at university. But it was expensive and time consuming, so I had to get a job to pay for my course. And I never went back to it. So I ended up just working in catering, running fast food restaurants. It wasn't very fun. So after about 4 years of doing that, I decided to go traveling. And whilst traveling, I got some work as an au pair. And one of the families in Barcelona wanted me to teach structured English lessons, which I had no idea how to do. So did a little bit of research and then realized that it was quite fun and a good way for me to travel and see the world. So when I went back to England, I saved some money and actually got a loan from a friend to do the CELTA in 2012. Friends
in the right places, huh?
I was very lucky, very grateful to my friend who got paid back when I got my first job.
What's that friend's name?
That was Louise, my friend Louise, yes.
Okay. So come to think of that, teaching English is a kind of science. It's not a rocket science, but well, in a way. So you worked in Asia first, didn't you?
No, I've never been to Asia yet. I started in Poland first.
Oh, I see.
And I did a year in Poland. And unfortunately, my father became very ill while I was in Poland. He passed away. So I wanted to move on from there and applied for some jobs in Spain. I applied for the school that I'm currently working at. It's a bit of a complicated situation.
Wow, that's a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't realize when I reapplied that I'd already applied 7 years earlier. So unfortunately, the school in Poland wasn't so happy that I decided to go back. So they didn't give a good reference. So at the last minute, this school withdrew their offer of employment, and I was left hanging in the wind, so to speak. So I took a job offer that I'd been given the year previously in Libya, which was in civil war at the time.
Oh my gosh.
So I went there and then had a little taste of excitement, earned some money to pay some debts off, and then ended up in Ukraine, as you know.
Yeah, that's where we met, actually. You've got lots of travel experience as well as teaching experience. So after Ukraine, you moved to Spain. Are there any differences between Ukrainian and Spanish working environment?
Yes. In general, to generalize, yes. However, the schools we're working at are very different. All the schools I've worked in Spain have been smaller, family-run enterprises, maybe with 1 or 2 offices. Whereas, as you know, in Ukraine, we worked for one of the biggest English teaching companies in the country. So I had quite a good professional environment and had a great time getting some professional development in Ukraine. And in Spain, it's lots of usually British people who like the sunshine, teach English for a few years and think I could open a school. So they do the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah, you mentioned that your aunt, your mother were teachers. It's like a family business. I guess that it's just an inborn quality. So that's how you ended up being a teacher. You also mentioned that that they turned you down here when you first applied. And then now you're successfully working there. So what has changed? Is it your Ukrainian working experience or what?
Well, actually, they had offered me a position, but they only withdrew the offer when they got a less than satisfactory reference from Poland. The job in Poland actually told them that I quit for no reason when I didn't, actually. I went back after my father's death, worked another month, and then came home. They asked me to sign a contract before I left, and they said, don't worry, you can go home and think about it. If you change your mind, just tell us. I'd been home a week, and I told them I'm not coming back. But they told the school in Spain that I waited until the middle of the summer, which was when they got the request for the reference, and just quit for no reason, which is definitely not true. Presumably they thought if that job fell through that I would go back to Poland.
Right.
But I didn't want to do that because I thought what they did was a bit unfair. So that's why I ended up throwing caution to the wind and moving to an active war zone.
Yeah, could you please tell me briefly, let's keep it brief and nice, about your experience in Libya. So you were working there at the time of the war. So what did it feel like?
Well, I say it's an active war zone. The civil war itself had finished, but there was a power vacuum. There were two governments there, and there was lots of tribal fighting because there were militias employed to keep the peace. Sometimes there was a bit of fighting, so we couldn't go out, but most of the time it was a lovely place, and the hospitality that I received there has not been matched by anywhere. Ukraine is the only place that even came close to being as hospitable as the Libyan people were to us.
Yeah, I see. Right. Have you
It's a lovely, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Everybody should visit Libya or Libya.
What about your eating habits? Have you acquired a taste for Lebanese food?
Yeah, Libyan food is very similar to Lebanese food. It's all the same spices. And I ate shawarma every day for lunch, like the kids ate for their packed lunches at school as well. So I would eat shawarma with lots of chilies in it.
Right.
And I still do that now.
Yeah. Well, it makes me hungry. Let's just skip this food issue. What do you like about teaching profession?
I quite like helping people in any way that I can, and I've tried to do it as much as possible through my life. And the way that I've managed to the area in which I found the most success is in helping people to learn a new skill. I used to teach photography and circus skills when I was younger, just as a hobby at local festivals.
What kind of circus skills?
Juggling. I used to teach.
Wow.
Every year we have a community festival in my home city, Newcastle, called the Green Festival. It's organised all by just local people. And I used to sometimes do juggling workshops where we teach the kids to make juggling balls with rice and balloons and then teach them to juggle.
Sounds fun.
And I really enjoyed it. So,
are there any things you don't like about your job?
The paperwork. And the lack of job security. I think the lack of job security in the industry is criminal because people are employed on a fixed term contract just for 10 months. Are
you talking about Spanish standards, right?
No, I'm talking about all the way around the world. I mean, people aren't paid through the summer in most English language teaching jobs.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it very easy for unscrupulous employers. Now, not all of them are unscrupulous, but it makes it very easy for them to just say, okay, your contract's over, I don't owe you anything. And I've seen that happen to lots of people, and it came very close to happening to me several times. But you know me, I like to kick up a fuss if I see something I'm a bit upset with. So I think it's a bit of a cowboy industry. Anybody who speaks English thinks, well, I learned it, so I can teach it, and it's not that easy. It really isn't. And setting up a school, just because you can teach, doesn't mean you can set up a school.
Right.
There are lots of moving parts there, and you've got to keep everything going at the same time. And lots of people attempt, but not many people manage it successfully.
Yeah, it's like a complete different business. When you are just a teacher, that's one thing, but when you own a school, it's just quite another. It's a horse of another color. Have you ever wanted to own a school?
I thought about it over the years. I've managed some summer schools,
Hmm.
so I know some of the stress that comes along with it.
Yeah,
And
that can put you off, definitely.
yeah, it's only 7 weeks, but it's a stressful 7 weeks. Um, so I imagine doing it full time would be quite a stressful job. I think if I was to start my own business, it would be just very small scale, myself and my wife.
Just like the school you are currently working for. As
Yeah,
you
maybe even they've got several members of staff here. I think I would do just about everything myself except have a local secretary to do the paperwork.
you hate it, don't you?
I
Uh,
hate paperwork. Paperwork's
Chris,
probably the
yeah,
worst thing about teaching for me.
I agree. Bear with me just for a minute. My final question is: what advice would you give to those learning English as a second language?
Um, Number one, input. Just take as much input as you can, whether that's watching webinars or YouTube videos or reading books or comics or listening to English music. And you need to balance it with output, because if you just take it in and you never practice putting it out, you're never going to be able to do that. So you need to get as much practice in as many different skills and from as many different sources as possible. And the
Agree.
second biggest piece of advice would be, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because
Okay.
failure is a great teacher. If
Right.
you never make a mistake, you never learn anything. There was a juggling phrase I heard, well, I read in a juggling book. It said,
Mhm.
the juggler who never drops has no balls. I think that's
Well,
quite
that's
appropriate for
fun.
this too.
Yeah, so you see, juggling has had some impact on your teaching styles, I guess. Have you ever juggled while teaching? Just wondering.
Several times, yes. I use juggling balls at the beginning of courses for the name game that everyone likes to play. You throw the ball and the kid says their
Yeah.
name when they catch the ball. And I usually like to end that. Okay, throw me that ball, throw me that ball. And when they throw the third one, I do a little juggle and get a round of applause. Nice little icebreaker to get
It
people.
is perfect icebreaking activity. I do agree. Kris, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I hope it will be of some help to those teachers traveling all over the world and with their first year of teaching career. Thanks very much, and
No, thanks for
see
having
you
me.
shortly. Yeah,
Thanks. See
take
you.
care. Yeah, bye.